So my daughter was born in January, so we knew she was on the way. And I just, not really saying anything at dinner. I just kind of look up for her. I said, "So draw results came out," and I didn't even finish saying what draws I got. She said, didn't even look up from her dinner. Just said, "Well, you better get it out of your system."
Welcome to Muttering Pines, the show where we fumble our way through the outdoors and try and do stuff with our hands.
If I just want to take a step back. If I want, so there's so many different types of arrows, and like you can get, like you said, so technical with it. But the other thing is, if I want to start bow hunting, I need a bow, I need arrows. You also need a trigger, like a release.
Yep.
Because for those that don't know, you don't. Well, I guess guys can. You don't with a compound bow. You don't draw it with your fingers. You clip what's called a release into it, and basically it has a trigger. When you're ready, you pull the trigger. It opens up and it fires the bow. So you need a release. You need arrows. You need a bow, and you need to practice. What other sort of like essential I want to start bow hunting gear, other than like somebody who knows how to hunt?
Yep.
Take them with you. That's gear.
So I would say, and not to, I know some people, if they're even on a budget, like you can still pace out range and that kind of stuff, right? But when you go out, whether it's on crown land or to the range, you're going to want to start to sight in your pins. So when you start sighting in your pins, you're going to want to know what ranges you're at so you can get them dialed in. So, if you got it in the budget, I'd look for a rangefinder. Depending, how, and one justification if you got to swing it to the life this way is use it for golf. You could use it for rifle hunting. You could use it for archery hunting. You can use it for
Measuring
how far
countertops in kitchen renovations.
There you go. You name it. They're universal.
Good luck with that one, Darren.
Yep. Mine, I think, is shit the bed, so that's the next.
But a good tool to use, like it's a good tool to have. Especially if you're going to be hunting, you're probably going to want to have, eventually at some point, a rangefinder. Like you said, a target. Another one that sometimes people forget is string wax. So if there's any repairable or maintenance to do on your bow, it'd be waxing your strings. And people ask, well, how long does a set of strings last? Well, it totally depends on how much you're shooting your bow and how well you take care of it. Like I've had the same set of strings for probably 3 years now, but I wax them often and take really good care of the strings. One thing that people can do too is like if you're ever having issues with your bow or the bow is like rattling or you ever hear like any of your hardware is coming a little bit loose, you can either use Loctite on the threads of some of the little screws that you have in your bow, or I've even used like the bowstring wax on the threads, and that just helps them from seizing up and helps them from rattling loose. And you can do that on your field points of your broadheads too, the threads that screw into your arrow.
They always come loose, eh?
Yeah, so put a little bit of string wax on there, or any wax, or Loctite will break. Like you can break it if you want to, right? So anything like that just helps anything from rattling loose. And of course, if you do have something rattle loose, it's going to happen at the most inopportune time. So little maintenance stuff that you can do in the off season or when you're not hunting. Two weird things:
rangefinder, for sure,
and wax.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the wax. That's a great one. I think we've touched on it a little bit, but one thing that I think I don't know how to phrase that. I don't think a lot of people know this, or maybe they do, and I'm naive. But I think I don't want to get on a rant here, but when you hear like non-hunters talk about hunters, one of the things I hear all the time is, well, if you're going to hunt with a bow because, like you said, it is more challenging. And they feel that, hunting with a rifle is not fair. So hunting with a bow is more challenging. It's more humane. But I think what a lot of people don't understand, and people getting into bow hunting don't understand either, or may not understand, and this kind of leads to another skill that you're going to have to develop, is that so if you shoot something with a rifle, if you're a half decent shot, at best it's going to jump and then die. If you shoot something with a bow, 9 times out of 10, no matter how good that shot is, no matter how humane that shot is, that animal is going to run. And you are going to have to go find it.
Yes.
And I don't think people realize that when you shoot an animal with an arrow, it's not killing it instantly.
Yeah, not like a rifle. Right? Like
no, because the rifle's got shock impact. It's got like it turns half the animal into a hamburger depending on what gun you're shooting. Like
no comparison.
No comparison. So I don't think it's as it depends on your version of humane. But my point is, I don't think people understand that you're going to shoot an animal, you're going to get like what is it the boiler room shot, like right through center mass. You can hit the heart, and that thing is still going to go anywhere from 10 to 200 meters.
So I guess the question I would have back to that person would be is, okay, so are you looking for me to be more humane or more fair? I know that might sound weird, but like, okay, call it more fair would be, okay, well, I'm going to have a harder time taking that animal with archery equipment, but more humane, there's hands down, like and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of insanely skilled archery hunters that do a fantastic job. Like I concede that, but a rifle it let's be honest, like it does the job significantly quicker. So I guess it depends.
Bullet to the neck, you can't beat it. It's dead.
Yeah.
But I guess, and the other point I have is that like for new hunters, so you will have to learn the skill of tracking a wounded animal through, I mean, arguably the woods, unless you're shooting in a field.
Well, and that's the tough thing too, right? So, some of the best people who at tracking are the ones who are the best at making a decision on when to and when not to track. I know that might sound strange. And again, you don't want to leave an animal too long. It's not saying that. And you don't want to leave it for wolves or coyotes or bears. Like, I get that. Mm-hmm. But if you make a shot that's less favorable, or maybe it's a little far back or it wasn't a great shot, well, sometimes, like, I would much rather leave an animal and come back for it and give it time to, expire.
I love it. I was going to say pass on or retire, but expire's good.
But I've honestly, I've been there where you're super excited, and we in our group we have a thing where we'll set a timer on our watches or our phones and do not move until that timer is up, because you get too excited, you get too fired up. Unless you see the thing drop, then we set a timer just because you're excited. I get it.
You don't want to bump the animal out to kingdom come.
Exactly right. And elk, especially super hardy animals, they will go right and go and go.
Adrenaline's a hell of a thing, right?
Yeah. And
like it could be on the ground and it sees like dying.
Yeah.
And it sees you and bam, up in like 400 more meters of energy through the woods.
Yeah. So you want to give it lots of time and as much time as you think, and it's a tough decision to make, and a lot of that comes from experience. But when in doubt, wait. They say when in doubt, back out, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's a couple bears that I've shot where it's kind of questionable, and there's some different signs that and even sounds that like a bear will make once you've hit one. It's kind of about to expire. And if you don't hear that sound, then it's kind of like, well, give it time, right? And I think that's good for the animal too, right? Because if you think about it, well, if I now go and bump that animal, like Matt said, now it's not good for anything, right? Now it's just bumping the animal. Now they're up. Now they're moving, and it reduces
more stress.
Right, it reduces your chance of finding it.
Arguably, like the meats, like you have
I've heard that
stressed animals. Like what is it like? When people say like, "Oh, our chickens are happy because they're never stressed out," right? Like
I have heard that of like animals that if you shoot a deer on the run kind of thing, or if you're sending lead at one kind of thing, like a stressed out, like you can maybe tell. I personally haven't been able to tell, but I definitely have heard that. But yeah, that's what I would say is wait if you can.
Darren and I ran into a landowner up by Drumheller that absolutely refused to have any bow hunting on their land anymore because they're a massive landowner, and there were so many shot, and they as the landowner they would find the kills where people couldn't track them down for whichever reason, if they weren't diligent, made terrible shots, or whatever. But it was interesting to hear the different perspectives. Like, we only allow rifle hunting, which was different, where it's a lot of like smaller landowners were like, well, no, I don't want rifles, and they would choose it for the the bullets are going to go too far, where a bow is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bow is going to go 100 yards, and that's pretty much it, where they didn't want the casualties. But these guys are like, no, only rifle hunting, no bow hunting.
That's interesting. I get it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it'd be hard for
Oh,
me
for
if I was
sure.
a landowner, and every time you're out in the tractor and the side by side, you're seeing either wounded animals with arrows hanging out of them, or finding dead animals.
Yeah.
That's like, kind of like what we know when we first started talking was people thinking that like you're gonna go in and buy a bow this week and go hunting next week. Well, no, like you gotta put in the time, and it's better for you. It's better for the like your experience too, right? There's nothing worse, like I said before, is not finding an animal. Like it's the worst feeling ever, and it's terrible for the animal as well, right? They're getting
Absolutely.
eaten by the wolves or coyotes, or now they're gonna live the rest of their life with an arrow sticking out of them, kind of thing. And that you don't want that. So you owe it to yourself and to that animal to put in the time and practice, and not buy a bow this week and go shoot something next week.
I did see a piece of equipment. I don't know. I assume you've seen this because you've probably seen everything. But there is like an on arrow. It's got a broadhead attached to it, but it's a GPS tracker. So you attach it to your arrow, you fire it, ideally. So like, I mean, this assumes that you're not getting a through and through, right? Like, or a pass through.
Oh, it doesn't like separate
Um,
itself from the broadhead on the way through? No?
No, it's intact with the
Not
arrow.
from
So
what
you
I've
gotta almost like you're saying, Darren. You just hope that the arrow stays intact with the animal.
hits a shoulder blade inside or something. But
I remember when those came out.
what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like
Learn to track.
Like, if you need GPS to find your animal, maybe you should have taken a different shot.
and it's almost like we're creating more technology and more gadgets to like take the place of just like good old fashioned practice, or like just hard work in the off season kind of thing, right? You'll never hear a guy like Cam Hanes advocate for GPS tracking arrows. The guy shoots all the time, right? Or like the guys who
Totally.
are practicing, you'll never hear them advocate for a GPS tracking arrow. Now, does that, I get the other side of it, and does it maybe help you on a couple of instances so that you don't lose animals? Yeah, like maybe. But like we said, like I think so much of it is shot placement, and having the self control to pass. I think
Yeah.
with maturity, I think that's even in my own hunting career, is there's maybe some shots that I've taken and I've gotten lucky on, but you look back, it's like I got lucky there. Like I should have passed.
Yeah.
Luckily, I found this animal, but I probably shouldn't have taken that shot.
It's tough too, though. Like one of the worst feelings, I think, is having to quote unquote draw down. So you see the animal and you have to basically release.
Yeah.
Like just pull it back down and be like, not today. And then in hindsight, you're like, that was better.
And like I was saying with,
but it's you gotta quell the blood for thirst.
but it's like
Oh,
that maturity,
shit.
right? And I think there's like a life cycle of a hunter, and that's that, and you hope younger hunters get that exposure early, but it's that maturity and knowing when not to shoot, right? And that's just something that, when I teach my kid how to hunt one day, if I get the chance, then, that'll be something that's obviously important, is just as important as when to, and when, especially even more importantly, when not to.
Well, as a new father, you have to come to this realization that you will no longer be able to ever hunt. Just
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Your 10-day hunts are now
Yeah.
10-hour
Honey, can I
hunts.
No.
go out for the afternoon? No? Okay.
Yeah, not even.
Well, it's funny how it worked out. Is like last year I got my muley buck draw, and I got my moose draw last year. So, and I remember like after the draw results came out, my wife and I were sitting down for dinner, and so my daughter was born in January, so we knew she was on the way. And I just, not really saying anything at dinner. I just kind of look up to her. I said, "So draw results came out," and I didn't even finish saying what draws I got. She said, didn't even look up from her dinner. Just said, "Well, you better get it out of your system."
Yes, dear.
So I've been
Thank you,
Yeah.
dear.
yeah,
You
exactly.
did, though. You had a good season, right?
Yeah, and there's going to be plenty of not so good seasons, I'm sure. But yeah, last year was a pretty good one for us. But yeah, at least this year I should be able to get out for a day or two for archery muleys out by the Saskatchewan border, and lucky enough, my wife's good with me doing the elk hunt, so I think we leave September 10th, we come back the 17th. So
Nice.
yeah,
You gonna come up with us at all?
what's that? Where are you guys going?
No, he wants to be successful.
Up by your place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like there's some big deer up there, and like
Hmm.
that's where we got. So the both of our moose last year were up there. Obviously, you got some moose on your property. Um,
I was just gonna say, do you guys want to see a bum? Just came through.
Just standing there just now, eh?
yeah. Well, crazy story. So the moose that my buddy shot on like November 29th, um, I didn't like I've talked to these folks before, and I didn't have permission for that year, but I had in previous years, so I had a bit of a relationship. So we were heading to a spot, and we actually spotted one, and kind of pulled over, and it's like like it's probably 20 minutes before legal light, and I knew they would be up because they're up early, so gave her a call. But she said, "Yeah, you can go ahead. However, everything's got to come out if you do get it."
Hmm.
Because they have a buffalo farm there, and they got those high fences. And what she's saying is there's actually grizzlies out there, like a pretty
Yep.
bad like grizzly problem. And what happens is the moose are actually, she said the younger moose actually get stuck in the fence, and they'll actually die in the fence, and the grizz are getting them. So she said
Yep.
everything but the guts has got to come out. So we were lucky enough; we got into a good spot and were able to take that one.
Oh, she let you
It
leave
was
the
a
gut
pretty good.
pile as well. Okay.
Yeah, let us leave the guts, which is kind of nice. And like if we had to, we would have, I don't know, emptied game bags and took
Yeah.
them out whatever she needed, right? Because
Right, right.
want to follow their wishes as much as possible because they by no means
Hmm.
need to let us go. So it was a good bull too, and yeah, got everything out, and um, luckily where we got it is a pretty clean shot, like for hiking it out. So we had a couple guys with us too. We were able to get it out in a couple trips.
The funniest part of that story is I know her because she was our realtor.
Yeah,
She got both ours and Scott's place,
yeah,
and I was chatting with her. I was like, "So a friend of mine shot a moose and had to take. He was told he had to take the whole thing." She's like, "I know this story." She's like, "Yeah, because there's grizzlies," and she's like, "Yeah, absolutely." She said it was. She had to talk to her husband,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and he hummed and hawed, and he said, "Yeah, if they take it all." And she
Take it
said, "You
out.
guys did like an excellent job of cleaning it up and everything."
Sweet.
But it's actually some of her land that we're hopefully going to be hunting this September.
Yeah. Well, they're like, and even like there's so much like quality bush up there, and like I personally haven't seen any grizzlies. I've seen grizzly tracks, and Darren, I think I showed you two of the biggest cougars I've ever seen
Do
taken.
you know how many people I show those photos to, and then they shit like they literally there's poo in their pants because they're just like, "What? That's like a lion from the Serengeti." I'm like,
Well,
"Yeah."
those two cats were taken, I think, in February, and we were camping on that section in end of November or whatever it was. So, and again, I don't know how much cats move that time of year, but yeah, when the landowner sent me those, yeah, a little uneasy sleeping out there.
Yeah, I am fully expecting my dumbass dog is going to be missing one day due to coyotes or those.
You never expect it. Like in grizzlies too. Like I don't know, maybe I should have expected it, but big cats and grizzlies, I guess. Yeah.
I didn't think grizzlies would be out there. It's a little too far north, but I guess not. Scott has one more question for you. I forgot. If you feel like answering it.
Can you bow hunt a beaver?
No.
Is it possible
No.
to bow hunt beavers?
You already asked that question,
And my other
dumbass.
question is, what's a great way to get kids into bow hunting safely? I would like to know because I think my son might enjoy it, but I don't want to teach him myself because I'm terrible at it, and I don't want him to also be terrible at it. Bye. Thanks for coming tonight.
Did you catch that?
Yep, that's a good question. So
I don't know why he thinks anything he's produced in terms of children would be a safe and reliable addition to the bow hunting community, like himself. But
so I would say it applies to not just kids, but anybody in like from an entry level standpoint is get them comfortable, right? You never want to get into something and be uncomfortable. Don't take them out when the weather's crappy. Don't take them out with a setup that hasn't been set up properly or by someone that you trust. You want to, and I know it's a weird analogy, but I use the example of like fishing, right? If you take your kid fishing and the weather sucks, there's no snacks, it's a terrible experience. And I guess it depends on the kid, but you want to make it as like enjoyable or fun as you can. And I think that's just gonna aid in whether it be safety or whether it's going to be something that they're going to continue to do. Um, but I would say like if he's thinking from a safety standpoint, is practice makes perfection, right? So if you can go outside and you can go and shoot in the summer, and maybe that's something that it's like him and his son have as like every Saturday morning they go to Jimbo's, or every Saturday morning they go to Calgary Archery Center and go for brunch after, and it's kind of like their thing. Whether or not they go hunting after, it's still going to be memories that they have for years to come. And just like if you think of anything that you do, you're going to be safer and more comfortable, the more practice and the more repetition that you do doing something. That would be my only advice is, shoot and practice well before you get into any hunting scenario. And now,
there's kids equipment you can buy, obviously.
Oh yeah, right down to like the little recurve kids bows you can get. There's all kinds of little setups you can get. So,
do you think recurve would be the ideal place to start, or like get a kid's compound and just get them 7?
Yeah, he's not very big.
Bad friend alert. 7?
Yeah, I think he's 6. But
no, I think
7. Okay, maybe 8.
Yeah, could be 12. I don't fucking know.
You can get him into recurve. There are like little compound bows that you can get, and again, I'm not trying to sell the guy, but you can definitely get into
that Cabela.
You can definitely get into like a little setup, and the thing about that is the sooner you get him shooting something like that, he's going to learn the habits, learn the routine, learn the functions of a compound bow, right? Especially if he wants to get into hunting. So he's got another 5 years, so I think he can start hunting when he's 12. The minimum weight regulations is 40 pounds of draw weight that you have to be able to pull back to be able to hunt big game. But yeah, like I said, if I had any advice for someone getting someone young like that, is just make it fun, make it an event, make it enjoyable, and not like a chore or like an obligation kind of thing. Like I said, even if it's like you go
turn it into a sport,
go for brunch after, or just make it like a dad and son kind of thing every Saturday or Sunday or whatever, right?
And if you want equipment, Cabela's
is the only place you can find it. Yeah,
only buy. Use the discount code Young Hunt. Nope. Don't use that.
You can try it. I don't think.
Okay, so because you're a huge hunter, and I have done hunting, and I read about this on like the forums and stuff, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this because usually every time we talk, pretty half in the bag.
Yeah.
not unlike at this current point now. After 14 AGDs.
The
But
technical difficulties before filming were awkward because
so stressful because I had to drink through them. Okay, so I was reading in a bunch of forums, and because this always happened when Matt and I would hunt a specific area in around Lake Pritis, is that you would hear the crows just stirring a racket, as no matter how noisy, how quiet you're walking through the forest. And first instinct is like you're busted, right? Like fuck, it's basically an alarm. Deer are gonna scatter because they're making a fuss, so they think something's wrong. But I was reading on these forums that what's actually happening is that crows are so smart that they are actually trying to inform you that there is a deer in the area because they know that if you kill it, you will leave a minimum a gut pile, which is basically a multi-day feast for them. Now, I was skeptical on this, and I want to say we were out there, Matt, and I was bow hunting, and you had a rifle, or we both had rifles. But anyway, we weren't seeing anything out there, and I was walking, and I heard like just the cawing, the ruckus, and at this point, I was like, "Fuck it, I don't see anything." So I started walking towards them, and I was damn near within 20 yards of those crows when two whitetail just up out of the woods. God, I wasn't ready because I'm like, this is bullshit. This is basically like QAnon conspiracy shit I'm following. Two whitetail up and ran because I spooked them.
That's wild. I've never heard that. But I don't know. Ravens and crows are crazy smart, though. That's interesting. I want to believe it.
I want to believe it too, based on my single experiment, which, if you follow the scientific method, basically means it's true.
so if they were making noises because they were trying to attract you to that, that's one thing. If they were making noises because they saw something moving in the trees, just like maybe it's no different if they saw you or me moving in the trees, they'd make a ruckus, and you just
Okay,
follow the noise.
I'm gonna try and jog your memory on this one, Matt.
I have
This,
no memory.
now that I think about it, there was another time. Remember, same area. We were going slow because this was when I think shortly before that doe fucked off on me with the bow. That the crows were making a huge fuss, and then we heard, because we were coming up to a ridge, and then it went down into a bit of a valley. I think we walked it at some point. Doesn't matter. But do you remember that shortly after those crows, or during their ruckus, we heard that buck stomp and snort and then fuck off because we had spooked it.
I don't remember that, but it doesn't mean it's not true. I have an awful, awful memory. Sorry, I can't.
All right, so it's
I
true.
can't.
So 100% it's true.
Yeah.
So there you go. 2 instances that we've been alerted to deer
Yeah.
via angry crows.
So if there's one more instance we've been alerted to deer, and has nothing to do with crows, is you and I decided to climb this fucking hill. We sat on.
It means we're 0 for 0 for
Yeah,
deer.
we sat on a hillside
0 for 3.
and we huffed a backpack full of beers up to the hill, and it was like 9 in the morning. Sun rises up. We're watching this valley, and we were spooked out by a buck who came out in a trail behind us. And the only reason that we knew that was there is because he snorted and snuffed and made a ruckus behind us, where we were too happy having a beer first thing in the morning to give a fuck. No, we gave a fuck. We just were too stupid to do anything about it.
Not untrue. We had scanned the area and like done a proper hunt walk because it was only a quarter section, so we'd done it for about 2 hours. And we got to the top of this hill, and we were like, "There's no fucking deer here." Like, barely sign.
Oh, so there was lots of sign. It was wolf tracks everywhere.
Wolf, dog and cat tracks everywhere. And we sat down on this log, And we were looking over
Where
to the far slope of the hill or mountain or whatever you want to call it, and we saw one single deer, and it was clearly a fawn just sleeping by a bush, and we're like, this is it, we're done. And we cracked a couple beers, and we're sitting there, and then all we heard was crunch, crunch, angry snort right behind us, just like, and it was like, oh no, and then it fucked off, gone forever.
that
It
was
like,
humiliating.
we have been hunted by a deer.
Yeah, we were humiliated. It was awful.
Yeah. I think we just went and napped after that because we're like, well, have you ever had a miss like that close?
Like where you go in and like you bust something out bad.
Or it busts you.
The deer finds you because you're so fucking inept at what you're doing.
No, we're talking to Cody. It's not the truth. No.
Right.
I don't know if I've like mistakenly walked in on like there's like bears and stuff that'll come into a site or whatever, and they'll be in there and not too happy you're in there. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So top it up, Darren. We're retards.
We're the worst. What, Cody? What is the worst? Not the worst. Yeah, I guess. Like, what is the biggest miss in your books? You were just like, damn it.
I've had so many.
Thank God. Oh, I'm not the only one.
Like miss, and in the sense that like just like an error on my end. Like, does it have to be like
you can pick
a shot,
pick and choose.
or like
you can have like
it could be an error, or it could be a call you had to make to not take it.
There's a pretty bad like error last year actually that took place. That it was just like it almost seemed like a curse that just wrecked my. Well, like we had a really good elk hunt last year. Like we filled 2 of 3 tags last year, which was fantastic. But so we got lots of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never ending.
All right,
as much time as you want.
So last year, got the green light from the boss, and I actually got an e-bike last year. So where we go, you can't actually take ATVs. So it's like there's no designated trail. So I ended up getting this e-bike.
Why not a horse?
Where am I going to put it?
Horses are terrible.
Sounds like a later problem.
Yeah, future Cody problem. So I get this e-bike. I ordered it in March. Thing doesn't show up. I'm not even kidding. Like the day before we leave for our elk trip. So take it out of the box, get it all set up, and like kind of figuring it all out. Charge the batteries. And so we go out, and without really knowing much about this e-bike, like I have this game cart that I used as somewhat of like a trailer on this e-bike. So like the company advertised like 150 kilometer range on this e-bike. So I figured we have tons of juice, and I can put a reasonable amount of gear on this trailer that I had and take it back. So we go back, kind of follow this ridge, and then there's a pretty steep hill that, we kind of underestimated. And so I had my bow actually mounted on the handlebars. I had like one of those like ATV mounts for the handlebars, and I kept rattling around on there. So I took my quiver off. Quiver is obviously full of arrows. Put that on the trailer, strapped that down, and then when we went down to try and get up the other side where that hill was, without me knowing this, I guess my quiver had fallen off in the tall grass. Well, without knowing, we kind of kept going and made the decision that I was going to turn back with the bike, go back, whatever it was, probably like 5 kilometers back to the truck, get in the truck, drive around to this other spot to try and come in the other way. So the 2 guys I was hunting with, they walked into camp from there, set up. I rode out, got in the truck, came all the way around, and I was going halfway in, and I saw that my battery meter, that the battery was dying on the e-bike. And I'm halfway in, and I'm about to go in the backwoods for 10 days. So I made the decision halfway in. I'm like, okay, well, my battery's, like, what's the point of having a dead e-bike for 10 days? Like, this is ridiculous. So I ended up riding out, went back to the truck again, drove into Fort McLeod, got a hotel, stayed the night, charged the batteries in the bike, and then kind of doing, that spot check on all my gear. I'm like, where's my quiver? Texted the guys because they were at camp. I said, hey, do you guys have my quiver? Like, no, we don't have it. Maybe it fell off. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to leave first thing in the morning, come into camp, and then we'll take a look. So they went and looked for the quiver that morning. I rode the bike that same way back in, got in, and I brought one arrow because I always bring like a quiver full plus an extra arrow in the truck. So I had one arrow that I just put in my backpack with an expandable broadhead, and go back into camp. And we never did find my quiver. We looked for it for a good half of the day, never found it. So there was a couple
Crows
hundred.
have it.
Yeah, a couple $100 just sitting out there. So anyway, never found this quiver. Got to camp, okay, settled in, and then it happened. I think this was like the Monday that we were in there, and then on the Wednesday, that's just, I don't know if it was what it was, but the elk just started going off, and we got in tight on a herd, and we were able to call a bull in to like 20 yards. And I'm at full draw on this thing. This thing's right in my wheelhouse. Draw back, shoot, hit this thing. Turns around and, takes like, I don't know, 20 strides and then stops. And then it's kind of hunched over and walking away. And pretty decent blood trail. And that was the day, like I said, where they were just going off. And the elk were still freaking out in there and screaming their heads off. And my other buddy who still had his tag, we were able to call another one in for him. He shot his went down. So we're thinking, okay, wow, like with a matter of like 30 minutes, we got 2 bulls down. So it turns out we never ended up finding my bull. Tracked it for, I don't know, probably 500 yards. Spent the whole day looking for it, never did find it. So I'm not sure if by, calling those other bulls in for my buddy after the fact that I'd shot mine, I don't know if that the herd busted out, and kind of like we talked about earlier with, that adrenaline. So it's hit, maybe head down, and the herd gets up and moves out of the drainage. Well, does that bull get up and move out with the rest of the herd? So, that was probably the biggest hunting debacle I've had, was one with the e-bike. And, I didn't mention that on the way out that night, I biffed it. I totally bailed over the handlebars and ate it pretty bad. So yeah, I wasn't in the greatest mood, but at the end of the day, we finished the trip off with two dead bulls, and should have been 3, but oh well.
Well,
Hopefully
you came up with something. That's a good story, at least.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, just that for us, that week 38, and something about the Wednesday. Every Wednesday, it's almost like every year, and like I'll kind of keep a bit of a journal of, certain different variables that we find year over year. And week 38, if I could pick any day of the year out of a 365-day calendar, it'd be the Wednesday of week 38. I don't know what it is, but
So
just seemed to go on.
What is week 38? September 20th?
I think this year it's the 14th.
But that's out, and now you have a spot that you go to and I'm not expecting you to tell us where that is, because that violates so many different codes. But you do have a spot that you go to every year.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, like that area, and that week 38 is just like, it seems to be the sweetest.
I don't know what it is, like, and it honestly, like, I have a journal in my phone, like back to 2016. Every week 38, the Wednesday, whatever it is, it's just.
So is it crown land or private land in like bush country? Or yeah,
it's both. So we've killed 3 bulls on crown and 2 on private.
Okay.
So we have permission on it borders right to the crown to the private. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what it is, and like if you really want to nerd out about elk hunting, if you were to look at a moon phase calendar, the week 39 would actually be the ideal week for the moon phase, because in that week 38, there's supposed to be a full moon, and they say it's not ideal because they can stay out and feed all night because there's the sun or the moon, right? And there's lots of light, so
yeah.
I don't play too much into the moon phase. Like I said, for us, it's week 38 seems to be the one, the week, and it's crazy because like that Monday, Tuesday, like nothing's calling. Like we're seeing elk, but like nothing's responding to bugles. The one bull we got early in the week, that thing came in dead silent. Came in dead silent. Like there's this guy named Paul Medell. He's got a podcast too, or he's a guest on all these podcasts, and they call him the Elk Nut, and he talks about this calling sequence called the slow play, and what you're trying to emulate is like a small herd of cows, where a bull is like making its way into the small herd of cows, and he's kind of displaying and kind of showing off to these cows, and you're kind of trying to engage or fire up another bull in the area. And that's 100% what we did on the first bull. Like he came in dead silent, and it worked. Guy that we hunt with, he then came broadside 20 yards in front of him. He shot it and didn't go. It went like 60 yards. But
So what kind of terrain is this that you're hunting your elk in? Is it mostly grassland, or is it wooded, or is it a
wooded.
healthy mix? It's wooded, yeah.
Yeah, like we're hunting kind of like the where we are there. It's like it's a big drainage, but it's a bunch of like fingers that run into this drainage. Kind of it's hard to explain, but a lot of the elk, like they're hanging out on those north facing slopes, especially like in that September when it's still hot. In the spring, you'll see animals hanging out on the south-facing slopes to catch the warmth. But yeah, they're going to hang out on those north-facing slopes. So if you're going to target animals, like what we found is like in where we hunt, it doesn't pay us any benefit to get up super early and go bashing through bush that we don't know what's in there.
Like 4 in the morning in the dark.
No, we don't even bother. Like we're at a point now where we get up, we kind of make our coffee and kind of go to this like little glassing perch, and all we're doing is we're trying to locate bull, like either visually locate or bugle, and kind of get a bull to respond back to us. Just because like where we are with the thermals, and that's a whole nother, I'm sure, podcast episode we could talk about is wind thermals and playing the wind. But so once the
hunting tactics, yep.
Once the sun starts heating everything up, the wind thermals are going to come up the hill, right? And then in the evening, once things start cooling down, the wind's going to start going down into the drainages. So much of your success or your ability to get in on elk is that wind, right? So we're 100% playing the wind and figuring out where. Like I don't want to just going into an area cold for the most part and trying to figure out where an elk is. I want to locate it first, figure that out, get the wind right, and then make an approach. And then try and get in as close to that herd as I can, and then start challenging either the satellite bulls or the herd bull.
That's incredible. One of my questions for you is how much, if I'm getting into hunting, or even if I'm like an average hunter, how much beer should I be bringing?
Depends how far back you're hiking.
How much weight you want to carry?
There's the weight issue. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I guess like if you're road hunting, you can just flat after flat in the back.
Maybe you got to switch over to the hard stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like we really we're more of the vodka and meal kind of guys.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, and Matt can attest to this, that whenever we're walking in anywhere, there's a significant portion of gear that just doesn't make the cut. Because they're in my backpack, there's a Jack Daniel's fire department. And a full bottle of Jack Daniel's fire has to fit in there. Because when it's cold, you got to stay warm.
Yeah, and distracted from animals walking up and busting you.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. And this, I don't think, aside from that one time, well, no, technically that even counts.
No,
there's a saying that we have. Beer means deer, and what I think what actually happens is the minute you stop looking for them is when you see them. Yeah, so the minute you sit down, you crack a beer, you open your Jack Fire, and you're just like, "Fuck, I just need a minute," and you're not ready. You're like, "Oh, look at that 7-point fucker."
Yeah, well, that happened this year when we were moose hunting. So it was kind of the end of the night. Like we went and tried this spot, and we didn't have a lot of faith in it, but we called a little bit, and we just cracked a pop kind of thing. And it's like as soon as we cracked him open, this bull comes like walking across this slough, and it's like and it didn't work out. Like he ended up getting behind us and winding us, and but it is kind of funny how like as soon as you kind of let your guard down, it's almost like they know.
Beer means deer.
Yeah.
Matt, was it you that was telling me the story of some guys at work? They were elk hunting, and the guy went off and was literally like leaning against a tree taking a shit. And an elk walked, and he was like right on the edge of a cut line taking a shit. And an elk walked by, and he just grabbed his rifle in like full squad, just like BAM!
Yeah. So that story is a little bit extensive on that. Is the dude who shot the elk was a fat as all fuck motherfucker who couldn't truly walk, and he was taking a break back because he couldn't walk up the hill, and he stopped to take a shite on the trail, and as everybody walked forward and well on gone, that's when he got his breath after wiping his ass, and that's when the bull elk walked out on the trail, and it just dropped dead. As this fat fuck who couldn't make it up the mountain dropped an elk at the entrance. Everybody else
after taking a shit.
Yep.
That would happen. Yeah.
Takes all. Well, Matt, you were
the fat fuck who couldn't make it up the mountain. Yeah, that's me.
It was you.
It was me.
Well, you had. I think it's the point is like it's when you least expect it, right? Like you had a bead on several elk a few years ago, and you were making the humane choice not to shoot because you didn't have an ethical shot.
Yeah.
And at that moment, a raging 4-point whitetail came charging down the hill within like 20 meters of you.
He was...
And stood there and was like, motherfucker! And you were just like, I can't not.
It was more like 5 meters. He was grunting and snorting on the other side of a fence. I was kind of pushing these elk up a hill, trying to get a bead. I had a small bull in my sights, and it walked up the hill. So I started to follow it up, and I heard busting through the trees what I thought was elk at the time, but it was this nice 4-point whitetail buck, pissed off as hell, and he came charging down the hill at me, and we were on the opposite side of a fence line, and I was on a cut line on the one side of the fence, and he was on the cut line on the other. So it was within, like I had a hard time pointing my gun at him and looking through the scope, and it was just like, well, he's sit there and he's right across from me, snorting and stomping, and I look up the hill and I see the elk kind of disappear, and he's still there. I'm like, well, I guess you're dead. So
shoot from the hip.
It was so close. It was like I didn't really know what to do. It was like I saw fur and I shot, and he made it like a foot, and he just expired right in front of me.
Yeah.
Term of the day expired.
Yeah. That was pretty crazy. But that buck coming down the hill is what pushed the elk out of the area. Like they heard him and they took off. So I don't think I would have caught them anyways. Yeah. So it was pretty good. I was happy.
Yeah, those kind of situations, like those storytelling kind of situations, make up for all those like super slow days or the days you go out and you see nothing, or right?
Yeah.
I think my favorite episode of Meat Eater so far that I've watched is when they take the time and the effort. I think he has Joe Rogan with him, and they fly up to some fucking place, remote area. Weather's garbage, and they come home with nothing.
Nothing.
Is that blacktail hunt they do?
Yeah,
the blacktail.
Sika, Sika.
Yeah. And I'm just like, absolutely, because
I'm never going back there.
People, and that goes back to my comment of people like, oh, rifle hunting's so easy. It's like, well, sure, kinda. Like if you're by your dad's place, Matt, where the deer roam around like they're in a zoo, and you just pull up to your pickup truck, fall out, accidentally let your gun go off and get two. Yeah, not fair. But if you're doing a proper hunt in proper terrain, not on a game farm like in America or whatever, like that situation where you go out and you're like, I am going to get a fucking deer today, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get a deer today or tomorrow or the next day. And even if you do have a shot, it couldn't be ethical. It might not be ethical. It might be out of range, or you might just straight up miss, right, Matt?
I've never missed. No, actually, I ran out of bullets this year because I missed so much. Speaking of that, Cody, I need you to find bullets and put them on the side for me because they are unavailable. So whenever that happens, just give us a dingle.
What do you shoot?
Just I shoot the cheapest 7mm Winchester 175 grain you can buy, and they used to be $25, and now they're like something 70 or 65 or so. And I still have.
Sign me up too.
I still can't find them.
So
I just bought a 7mm last year, the year before, and because I had such a hard time finding ammunition for it and the stuff I want to shoot, I actually started reloading.
Oh yeah. So that's an entire topic that I would love to pick your brain on.
That's a whole new topic. Yeah.
And honestly, like going into reloading, like very little like experience before I started reloading, but that's such like another rabbit hole you could go down is the reloading and just nerding out on it. And it's kind of like where we talked about with the arrow stuff, right? Is like you're like what we talked about, you're just scratching the surface, but like reloading is like, man, it's a whole nother world. And like just with the way ammunition is and just the scarcity of you being able to find the ammunition you like to shoot, that's just the decision I made, is just I'm gonna just reload my own. And
it's insane that bullets have become that scarce in Canada. So
again, not a plug, but like we got a huge shipment like last week of a pile of ammo. So like we haven't been this full in like over a year. So it is getting better, and like it's cheaper ammo that we're seeing now. But at least like you can come into the store and you can find 7mm ammo. You can come in, you can find 270. You can find
nice.
30-06. Like before, like someone would come in like, oh hey, do me 270. It's like no, we haven't had 270 in like 8 months.
Yeah. So what you're saying is if you need ammunition, go to Cabela's.
I was just gonna say if you need ammunition, get Cody to reload it for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You probably want to get to sleep. I know it's late. This has been a blast, Cody. Thank you for just agreeing to do this.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
I appreciate it, Cody.
I'm definitely gonna ask you again because, like you said, I've got like 4 other topics now, and I'm like, let's get nerdy on this shit.
Yeah.
Well, it's just fun to nerd out, right? Like it's just fun to just talk about what you're passionate about, right? And I don't know. What else are you gonna do when the kid's sleeping?
Right?
Drink beer and talk about hunting. Yeah. There's literally nothing else you can do. So on that note, Cody, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
I expect you to come hunt with us, at least for a day.
Well, actually, it's kind of embarrassing. I'm not sure if he should. It might be one of the things we meet up with him after the fact, because...
Come drink with us.
There you go.
We got beds and a warm fire. So
awesome.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Cody. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, buddy.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that guy's a gem.
Dude, I could have talked to that dude for at least a couple more hours.
He's coming back. Is he coming back? Oh no, he's probably uploading. Okay. Yeah. I like easily 2 more hours.
Yeah,
on a scale of Simple Jack to Jim Carrey from Dumb and Dumber, how stupid you feel?
Yep.
After talking to someone with actual knowledge. Dude, we once had a deer hunt us.
Right? He's like, oh no, I got 3 bulls last year.
I think the best contribution was from Scott.
Yeah.
And his 2 mail-in questions. Can you hunt beaver? Don't check the regs. Let's ask this question. Yeah. But this has been a fucking blast, and I'm gonna get him. I want to get him back for like 4 more topics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you'll come back after this, you may never talk to me again. But
So on the bear hunting thing, I didn't think I was so interested in. For years, I've had little appreciation for it, but ever since I've been doing this head taxidermy thing that I've been doing, it's
which follow at Plainsman Euro
or you could
on Instagram.
Yep, there's heads on there. There's an awful lot of deer heads and elk heads, and oh my god,
Big fucking moose head.
fucking giant moose. Moose are the biggest pain in the ass. But anyway, so a bear, I had zero appreciation until recently to go get myself. And now that I've been doing this, I significantly want to get my own head and to do my own hand at
You want a rug?
taxidermy my own rug.
You want a
It
rug?
might not be good.
Like with the head on it, rug.
Something. Getting something I'm happy to have on the floor is like my trophy that I tanned and I did myself. That would be cool.
I agree. Yeah, I don't even want to do what we learned because it was just too much.
What I learned is
I
that
learned that I don't know fuck all compared to Cody.
Yep, I'm inadequate compared to Cody, and I appreciate him coming on and making me feel like such a retard. So thanks.
Thanks. And on that note, this was surprisingly nice, even though Scott wasn't here.
Yep. Bye, Scott.
And
Enjoy having your family
Bye,
time.
Scott. You missed out. All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you later.
Hey, nobody. Don't forget to stalk us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. The information and opinions within this broadcast are those solely of 3 guys who barely know how to tie their shoes, let alone do anything functional in the real world. They are not to be taken as advice or as actual instruction on how to do anything we've mentioned ever. That is the end of this disclaimer.